Why? Why are we here for you? Because we used to be you. And we know how much it matters when people care about you. So I don't have to know you personally by name to care for you and to care about you. I just know that I used to be you. And someone was willing to help us. And her name is Coach Rita. And she was selfless in doing it. And she set the example for us. And that's why we do what we do here today. If your needs are not getting met, then it is highly likely, very probable, that you are punishing your spouse. Because if you think you know what your spouse needs and you are withholding it, then you are punishing. Every time we would have conversations and she would express those fears, I took those personally. And it was words of affirmation, and the affirmation was, you're not doing enough. And so I went out to find that. And that is the challenge when it comes to not knowing how to communicate with your spouse. If you are lacking in one of these areas, it is likely that you're overcompensating in this area to love your spouse because you're missing it. And we think from a me first perspective, which is, well, if I wanted to feel loved, I would say these great things to and about my spouse. And then what happens is it doesn't resonate. And it doesn't resonate because it's not what your spouse is needing. Are you sitting there telling me that my compliments mean nothing to you?
No. What I'm saying is when your words of affirmation are only compliments, then they mean nothing because you are continually saying the same thing. And now it's like you're just doing it to get your brownie points.
Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. It is I, your humble servant, Quincy Moran, a.k.a. the Q Dog in the Moran family studio with my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran. Jeannie, I came in pretty hot there. Honey, say hello to the listeners.
What's up?
What's up? We're here today to talk to you guys about major mistakes in marriage. Right now, I'm trying to stop major mistakes in the studio. So hopefully there's some editing I can do to get that all put together. But with that, I want to make sure that you know that we have an email that you can get directly to us, which is quincy@manvsmarriagepodcast.com. All right, so let's start this discussion right now. Major mistakes in marriage. And Jeannie and I are working through some things, and we help couples already. And the couples that we help, we have helped people across the world, and we try to communicate some of these very principles today. And since we are talking with some listeners and some couples right now and going through this, I thought it was important for us to share this on the show. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief overview of four of what I would call some major mistakes that are inhibiting your ability to connect or communicate with your spouse. And I'm realizing now that you rewrote all this and it doesn't look a lot like what
It is right there.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and grab that in just a minute.
It is actually exactly what you wrote. I just put mine in a different color in between.
Okay. So number one, when it comes to major mistakes, you are way overcompensating loving or treating your spouse based on what you are lacking. And I will unpack that for you. Number two, you're not loving your spouse with her love language. And, from now on in the program, since it's a guy talking to guys, ladies, when you listen, just know that you can rightly divide this and use this for yourself. So you're not loving your spouse with her love language. You're loving her with what you're lacking in your own love language. Actually, this is not exactly what I wrote.
It is exactly what you wrote. I just put mine in between. If your notes are right there, babe.
Okay.
Right there. Pick up that book right there.
I'm just going to leave that there. We'll get this straightened out.
Yours is in black. Mine is in pink.
Okay. Very good. So mistake number 1, you're loving her how you want to be loved, not how she wants to be loved. Mistake number 2, you are overselling how you love her, and it's creating resentment. And then I don't know where mistake number 3 went.
On the next page.
Okay, that's what it is. These are out of order. All right, so number 3 is you're dealing with punishment and retaliation, or you're using these as a means to connect and communicate with your spouse. And number 4, you're assuming you know what it looks like when you are communicating love or treating your spouse with love based on these love languages. Now, if you're not familiar with the love languages, I'll make a note here to put the link in the show notes so that you can go and you can take this quiz. I think it is very, very, very helpful. But honey, let's talk about mistake number 1 and give your thoughts. You are loving her how you want to be loved.
Well, it's trying to meet your own need by giving her what you're looking for. So, if my love language is quality time, then if I felt like you weren't meeting that, I would be trying to give you as much of my time as possible, trying to fill in with conversation and, wanting to do things just the two of us when that may not be what you need. You may need affection more so than quality time. On this particular, I don't even know how to sit on the notes that we did. We basically tried to do this on words of affirmation and quality time, because these are things that Quincy and I dealt with when we first found out what our languages were. So for us, you needed words of affirmation. My version of words of affirmation was not correct.
Yeah.
I was affirming. I was just affirming negatively. And so that came back to bite us in the butt. And I think that it's because I didn't understand what you needed. I didn't understand how you needed it. And for myself, I needed it too. I was kind of struggling in the same area because we had a lot going on. I felt like I fell short all the time. But I didn't know that it was actually something that was damaging more so than beneficial because of the way I was doing it.
Yeah. And if you guys are not connecting and you're not connecting in communication intentionally, I'm going to unpack this a step further for you. So my number 1 was words of affirmation. And early on in mine and Jeannie's marriage, I'm not even sure when we took this love language deal for the first time.
17 years ago.
Okay. So
18 tomorrow.
We took this, before we even took it, let me say this. With my number 1 love language being words of affirmation, and Jeannie communicating through a foundation of fear about what we don't have because of some of her own personal anxieties when it came to maybe how she grew up or what she had been through. All the things that she was saying out loud that were based on fear, which is we don't have enough for groceries. We don't have enough for the light bill. We don't have enough for X and Y and Z. I took those personally because I am an affirmation by word human being, and I didn't know myself well. And she was just doing maybe what she had always done, which is expressing her fears of lack. And so I took those, and the only thing I could hear is, you're not good enough. You are not doing enough. and you need to do more. So I was out chasing the more. Not that I didn't want to be home with my family, but I wanted to solve her problems. And because we were struggling financially, I took that on myself to say, dude, you are failing. And so every time we would have conversations and she would express those fears, I took those personally. And it was words of affirmation. And the affirmation was, you're not doing enough. And so I went out to find that. And that is the challenge when it comes to not knowing how to communicate with your spouse, because we were doing what we saw. I don't know what your expectations were when you got married. I don't know what your preparation. What was the pregame before you showed up for the actual game? And we went through a marriage class, but that didn't necessarily solve everything because we had love goggles on.
And I don't think they really covered this that deeply in our marriage class, because they talked about like your roles in the household and who was going to have what responsibilities and establishing those, and then, establishing how we were going to raise our kids. I mean, it was like 6 really short classes that we took. I don't think they ever really got in depth in it. Not like we did when we did the one at Living Faith. That was a lot more intimate and a lot more thorough, I think, in communication. Just in itself, I think we did like 3 classes of various types of communication and how. And
well, in all fairness to the program we were in before we were married, we had almost 10 years of marriage or 10 years of marriage and experience when we went to this other class. So
True.
they could have talked about it in pre-marrieds, and you got beer goggles on.
That's true.
You're in the hunt for the marriage, and you're like, okay, let's do this. One thing I noticed about the class is that when it started, it was full. And when
by week 3, there was half a class.
And that's because they brought up red flags.
Yeah.
And are you looking at red flags? So you are loving her how you want to be loved. So if you are lacking in one of these areas, it is likely that you're overcompensating in this area to love your spouse because you're missing it. And we think from a me first perspective, which is, well, if I wanted to feel loved, I would say these great things to and about my spouse. And then what happens is it doesn't resonate. And it doesn't resonate because it's not what your spouse is needing. That is not what is needed. Now, your top love language was quality time.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to, whether you remember this or not, I do, because we'd be laying in bed and talking. We would be turned in opposite directions. And I would say, I am talking about you all the time. I'm telling people how proud I am of you. I'm, building you up. I'm saying these things. And you basically told me in not so many words, I don't really care. And I'm going,
that sounds about right. That sounds about like me.
No, I distinctly remember it from low court
because
we were having some challenging times. And this is well before we started these classes. This was in the heat of having children and, what was going on early in our relationship. And so I was doing what I thought she would want because it's what I wanted, but it didn't resonate with her. So my intentions were good, but my strategy was wrong and I didn't know. So that's a major mistake, because you are going to start to build up resentment towards your spouse because here you are doing what you think is right and it is not resonating.
Well, and so there's 2 sides to this, because your version of words of affirmation was me acknowledging your hard work, acknowledging the effort you were putting into taking care of me and the family, acknowledging certain things and building you up when I was with other people, or when other people were talking about you. That was part of words of affirmation for you in the beginning. For me, and this is common, guys tend to think, I'm going to tell you how beautiful you are. I'm going to tell you how great you look in those jeans. I'm going to tell you, I'm so excited to have you as my wife. I'm so proud of you, blah, blah, blah. And it's not that it's bad, but that doesn't resonate with me as words of affirmation. I want recognition. I want someone to notice me, not this part of me. I'm not looking for you to pump me up and make me feel like I'm pretty. That's my job. For myself, that's my job. But for me, because we have 8 kids, because we have a large family, because we have so many things on our plate, affirmation for me is thank you so much for taking the time to put together the stuff we needed for the beach trip. Thank you so much for making sure that everybody had what they needed, because that means you're paying attention to the fact that I pay attention to detail. You're paying attention to the sacrifice and the effort that I'm making, just the same as I tell you, I love my car. I appreciate my car. Thank you for getting me the car, because I know that payment is not easy, but I appreciate it. That's the difference. I think a lot of people have a tendency, just in talking to couples, it's the surface stuff that we hit as affirmation, but it's not the surface that needs to be affirmed. It's the deep rooted stuff, the I'm not enough. You can't combat I'm not enough with you're so pretty, you're so handsome. My God, anybody would be lucky to have you standing next to them. That's great. Anybody probably could have me standing next to them. It's just a body standing next to a person. That's not who I am. That's not what I do. It's the getting lost in not just being Quincy's wife and having that label of you're Coach Quincy's wife. Yep, that's me. Or you're that mom, the one with the 8 kids. Yep, that's me. That doesn't resonate with me. That means nothing to me. I know I'm a mom of 8 kids. I know I'm your wife. I'm proud to be your wife. But those are not things that are special about me. Things that are special about me are my attention to making sure that the kids, when they're in the hospital, have everything that they need, because that's my job. I take pride in that. When we go on family trips, making sure that we have everything we need and the car is packed and the things are done so that you don't have to worry about getting home and trying to rush through getting things done. Those things mean something to me, because it means you noticed that I'm working hard and I'm doing something. And I think a lot of times as couples, we don't look at that stuff,
Well, we don't
or we don't
know.
verbalize it correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't know that we're supposed to.
So, I mean, you can tell me my ass looks nice in jeans. I'll take it every day, all day. I'll take it because I know that you like my butt in jeans. But that's not what's important about me.
I mean, can you honestly say that? Are you sitting there telling me that my compliments mean nothing to you?
No. What I'm saying is when your words of affirmation are only compliments, then they mean nothing, because you are continually saying the same thing. And now it's like you're just doing it to get your brownie points.
Oh, I see.
You're not
Okay.
paying attention to things that I value as important. You're not paying, like when you would give a sermon and I would tell you at the end of it, because you always come out and say, I don't know if that hit. I don't know if people, and I could tell you, no, baby, when you said this, this, and this is what I thought of. This is what I felt. That reaffirms to you that A, what you did was heard. B, it was valued because I took something from it. And C, you did a great job because you made those things happen. That's very different. Very, very different, because it's very specific to I didn't do this well enough. I didn't resonate with people. I didn't make the impact. I'm not enough in this, but you are. And this is why. Does that make sense? Is that explaining it better?
I think so. The thing that I thought was like, and I didn't really plan on talking about this, but you're bringing it up. The way you're saying it is, and I know this is more probably in context around the people that we're helping, and those compliments falling on deaf ears because the relationship in this particular area is not in a healthy place.
Mm-hmm.
But based on what I know, unless you're fooling me, is you look for those compliments, or you wear certain things because you know it will get my attention and you like the feedback.
I do, but I don't do it every day, do I?
I mean, I'm not, I travel for work, but
Is it something that I do every single day though? Or is it something that I do like when we're going out on a date, or when we're going to spend a weekend together, or when we're doing special things? That's more when I try to do things to get your attention, because I want your attention on me in those times.
Okay.
But on a daily basis, it's not that I don't like to hear it. I think just when it's the same thing on repeat, I think it becomes one of those things of now you're just doing it to do it. Do you really mean it, or are you just saying it to say it?
Well, too, I'm not saying it in a situation to meet my own need.
No,
I'm saying
and
it to
you
affirm.
don't say the same thing every time either. You change
Okay.
it up.
I just thought it was interesting and figured I might unpack that a
This
little
is
bit.
answering why when you said you brag about me, you talk to these people, and I basically told you I really don't care. That's why. Those things are great for other people, but it meant nothing to me because it wasn't being said to me.
Yeah, and that's understandable. And I was in that case, and based on the example, it was a true to life example on I was doing that because it's what I was lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be important to you, but I didn't know, like you didn't know how the things you were doing and saying weren't resonating with me. I didn't know it would resonate with you because we have that as human beings, that me first approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to help you in connecting with your spouse. So I'm glad we were able to, actually get into a bit of a deeper discussion about that, so that I could kind of talk through it with the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners could hear us talk through it. So mistake number 2 is you're overselling how you love her, and it's creating resentment. And it may feel like we answered that in number 1, and while they're closely connected, it's not the same. In number 1, specifically, we're talking about you loving your spouse how you want to be loved, and it's not resonating. Now, when you're doing these things, and we did touch on it a little bit, when you're doing these things, and maybe you do have the right intention, you just don't know the proper strategy or the proper tool to use to connect with your spouse, you can truly be pouring your heart out. And your spouse is not going to feel,
you're not getting the response you think you should be getting.
Yeah. So
that one comes out to us a lot. Well, I did this and it did nothing. She didn't notice. She didn't say anything. She didn't blah, blah, blah. And it's like, are you sure that's what you were supposed to be doing? Are you sure that this is coming from, like, did you ask her? Did you ask her if that's what she wanted you to do? Or did you just run with something and do it, and then you're expecting a certain response?
Yeah. Well, too, I mean, there's another example. And look, I love to give examples because they're very helpful in providing context. And say acts of service is very high on your priority list. Well, if you're providing acts of service, number 1, if you're doing it begrudgingly, like it's almost like the Bible talks about a cheerful giver. If you give and you grumble and you are resentful about giving, but you're just doing it because it's what you're supposed to do, it's not going to resonate.
Or if you're doing it expecting something out of it, that's not exactly the right heart either.
It is not. And so it's important to know that. And the other thing is that what acts of service may look like to you, or what words of affirmation, like Jeanne and I have already, I think beautifully illustrated to you, what words of affirmation might look like to you, it may not mean the same thing to your spouse.
No, we ran into this one a couple months back, actually. And it was like, my wife's love language is acts of service. So he started coming home. We actually, we did this a long time ago. But it popped up again. Anyway, it's like, well, I came home and I did the dishes and I took the trash out, and, I tried to do some of the chores so that she could have a little bit of a breather, and, just trying to pick up the slack. But she got irritated rather than grateful, and it frustrated him because I'm doing acts of service. I'm doing things to help her to lighten her load. But this particular person a few months ago, his wife's acts of service, because and this is different for everybody. So understand in context, there was a stepping out in the relationship at some point. So the wife's version of acts of service is, maybe a foot massage after a 12-hour shift at work, or maybe sitting on the couch and you taking care of choosing the movie, or you're taking some of the responsibility off of her because you're making the plans for what you're doing, and you're putting her first rather than saying, well, I want to take you out, so go get babysitting and pick where you want to go and we'll go. You're throwing it back at her. That's not an act of service. That's you saying, okay, I'll do this for you, but you've got to make all these arrangements. And so we had a Jack that started noticing some of these things. So he made it a point every morning before she goes to work. He gets up before she does. He makes sure that her lunch is together. He makes sure that her coffee is made. She's got breakfast ready to go. They have their 15 minutes together. That to her was bigger than doing the dishes. Why? Because it gave her 15 more minutes to sleep, or to stand in the shower, or to relax. But it also meant that he paid attention to specifically what she needed. And then he made it a point in his own intentions. A couple nights a week when she comes home from work, she works 12-hour shifts. He would sit on the couch and he would rub her feet while they watch a movie or they talk. Why? Because she's been on her feet all day. And is it affection? Yes. Does it run under both of those? Yes. But it's actually an act of service to her because it's something that she doesn't have to do for herself. You thought of me rather than trying to do my job for me. And this is where we get the confusion, because when we had our kids were little, I used to get mad. If the dishes weren't done, I felt like I was just falling. I was not holding up my end. I couldn't get the dishes done. I couldn't keep the laundry done. I couldn't keep the kids bathed. Like, I just could not stay on top of everything. For someone to come in and help me with those things, there's a part of me that's grateful because it takes it off my plate, and I'm happy to have help. And there's the other side of me that feels guilty because I just cannot do my job, and you feel the need to come in and do it for me.
Yeah.
And so there's a guilt that weighs there. So we had to determine, what does that look like? What do I need specifically? I need 30 minutes to myself. That's what I need. I need 30 minutes to go take a bath, be by myself, get away from the noise. And then we can collectively decide what needs to get done and how to tackle it.
Yeah.
It's just very different for everybody. But that's the biggest mistake I think we see in acts of service is your intention is there. The mindset is there. The intention is there. Everything is good. But if you're not clear on how that other person feels about themselves and those things, you could be making that guilt worse. You could be making that rub worse unintentionally.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up those examples, because I was going to bring up one of an example that was similar. It just wasn't ours. The first one you brought up, I didn't consider. So thank you for bringing that up. The second one is very similar to what you and I went through, and you brought that up. So I thought it was great, which is, the husband comes home and starts doing the housework, and the wife, like you're saying, feels like when you do that, what it's telling me is I wasn't good enough today. As opposed to, like Jeannie said, what I really need is some time to get away from the kids and get a bath in and recharge myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the act of service. So, I would come home and whenever I would come home, Jeannie would just load in on me on everything that had gone wrong in the house the day. And then I would turn into, Mr. Disciplinarian. And nobody likes that. Nobody, not the parent and not the kids. And so I would tell her, look, I need 10 minutes to, decompress from work, because I'm not coming home to be an operations manager. I'm coming home to be a husband and a father.
Mm-hmm.
And so she would give me the 10 minutes necessary to go in and to change my clothes and, kind of decompress for the day and then come out. And then I would, in turn, it's like tag team wrestling. She would tag my hand. It was her turn to go in and to decompress and get 30 minutes or more, to get in a hot bath, to read, let Calgon take her away. That's an old school commercial. And then I would go out and I would spend time with the kids, and we would have good times. Like, we would have some fun.
Well, and some of that, it was a matter of splitting the difference. Like, I would cook dinner, He would come home from work. He would go decompress, change his clothes, whatever. I would have cooked dinner. We'd all sit down. We'd have dinner. And when dinner was done, mom goes to take her bath, recharge, get her head straight, and dad and the kids would work on cleaning the kitchen. Now, that doesn't make me feel bad because I'm not doing my job. That was now a fun time for the kids to clean and do dishes with dad. And we were still keeping with teaching them the responsibility, doing the things that they needed to do. But it helped us. We even learned to do it with, like, if we have big projects. Okay, well, we want to do this together. We need to get this done. It's going to take two people. We're going to split the project. You're going to do the bathroom. I'm going to do the bedroom. We're going to give ourselves this much time to do it. And then we're going to do this. And it's a learned thing. It's taken us a long time to get there. So it's not something that I expect people to just lock in right now and change immediately. But it's something that you have to know what it looks like. You have to know what the reward is. Why does it mean so much for you to do this for me? Because I need to recharge. I need downtime. I don't want to be in a butthole mentality with the kids. I don't want to feel disconnected from you. I want to have our time at night.
Mm-hmm.
I need time to just let it all go and reconnect. It's really that simple.
Yeah. And so here's another example with mistake number 2. You're overselling how you love her, and it's creating resentment. If you're, and this is based on your lack, if you are lacking in the intimacy in the sex department, then you're going to be putting your hands all over your wife, and it's not going to be resonating. You're laughing, but it's no laughing matter. You need the connection. That's the primary way, that you as a man connects with your wife. And you may be pushing her farther away because you're overdoing it based on your lack thereof. Or, you could be making the mistake that I made, which Jeannie's top need being, quality time. I was giving her what I would have wanted in quality time, which is a chance to not go to veg out, to sit and relax, watch a great movie, laugh together. And that's not what she wanted. Quality time with her was sitting with my attention and talking to me about things that adults talk about, not kids
going
stuff.
Places and experiencing things.
Yeah.
Spending time, not being parents, not being grown-ups, just being us. We dated at one point. That's what quality time is. I want you to date me in quality time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great example. Now, look, when these things are happening, that kind of leads into mistake number 3, which is how you treat each other. And if your needs are not getting met, then it is highly likely, very probable, that you are punishing your spouse. Because if you think you know what your spouse needs and you are withholding it, then you are punishing. Or if your spouse maybe gives you some attitude, rather than having grace for her, you take a dig and retaliate back. And that never helps.
Okay, so here's a couple examples we've run into with couples that we've worked with and some that we've dealt with. Now, for me, quality time is important. Connection, conversation, things of that nature are very important to me. So before we figured out what we were doing, if Quincy was upset with me, his way of dealing with being upset with me was, I'm just not going to talk until I can process through it, because I don't want to argue. I don't want to say something hurtful. I just want to let it go. And so he would get quiet. He would withdraw and he would pull away. But for me, because I need that quality time, I need that conversation. I need to know what's going on. Because when you pull away from me, it separates us. There's a wedge there. And now I feel like I can't connect with you. But then when we're talking again and he's fine, we want sex. Okay, but I don't have my quality time met. So the sex to me is just an action. It's not a connection. It's not my friend that I am connected to, that knows me and that is intimate with me. It's, okay, I guess it's my wifely duty. I hate that because it should never be that.
Try not to beat the table up so much.
Sorry.
People are going to think there's an earthquake if they're watching.
But
now,
on the other side of that, the reason I bring this up is because we've also had people where, say, your love language is affirmation and you're giving me all the affirmations, but it's not resonating with me. It's just not hitting. And then I do something that pisses you off. Either I'm not appreciating it or I've done something that you're frustrated with me with. So now instead of words of affirmation, you're arguing with me and you're saying rude things, you're insulting me. You're, throwing crap at me, making accusations or throwing out, well, maybe I should just go somewhere else and do this, whatever it is. Okay. Everything you have ever affirmed on the positive just erased itself because you just gave me the exact opposite. Your word no longer holds any weight to me except negative because I can't trust to believe what you told me in the good minute is the truth, because when you got mad at me, all this other crap came out. And now I'm sitting here trying to figure out which one am I. So what you're doing is you're choosing to punish me because you know that I need to feel good about myself. I need to have these things. Now this has never happened with me and Quincy, but an example would be my need for affirmation is to know that you see what I'm doing for the family. You see what the efforts I'm making. So if you congratulate me or thank me for everything I did for the trip and how I made everything right, and then when we're on the way home, you and I get into an argument of something over the trip, and it's, well, if you wouldn't have been spending so much time taking care of this crap to get ready for the trip, and you would have been focusing on this like I asked you to, everything you said prior to negates that, because now I'm honed in on the one thing I didn't do, the one thing I did wrong. That's what you actually care about. And it sounds ridiculous for one thing to negate so many others, but it's really not, because depending on you, the individual, and how you view yourself, if I view myself as not enough, if I view myself as not making the mark because I didn't get my job done today, or I didn't get all the chores done, or I missed something and I'm coming down on myself internally, your affirmations on the good side help fix that for me. They help kind of put a Band-Aid on it while I work through it. But every time you shove something at me that says, well, you didn't, or if you would have,
yeah,
it digs that hole deeper and it just shoves me back in it. So when you think you're coming out of something, the person you love the most just shoved it right back at you. And that's the person that's supposed to be my soft place to land.
yeah,
See me when I'm vulnerable and naked and not judge. Supposed to let me say something ugly and not hold it against me.
mm-hmm.
This is the person that, of anybody in this world, me, you get every part of me that nobody else gets. And you took it in one thing and just out the window. And that can be done at year 1. That can be done at year 25. We've seen it of all types, but that's what it is. You may not mean to punish. You might be thinking that, well, I'm just going to snap them out of it by saying something just to piss them off and maybe I'll get a reaction. You might not like the reaction.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And I agree with you. And typically when those things happen, at least in our experience, it's from a point of frustration that you would say something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because your needs are not getting met. Unless you are just emotionally a turd and you haven't taken the time to grow in that area. And here's the challenge is when you find yourself in this place and one is not getting the quality time and the other one is not getting the physical touch, there comes an ugly cycle, because why am I going to give you quality time when you won't touch me? And you're saying, well, why am I going to touch you when you won't give me the quality time?
And that's the female equivalent in this is, well, you know what? I'm just not going to give you sex then. You can go take care of it yourself. That is one area that I tried really, really hard to never, ever take away. We've had our arguments. We've had some issues where that's happened, but it's something that we really, really try, because that's the part of marriage that we've learned. Everything else can be going to crap. Work, the kids, finances, the world around us. But if he and I can meet each other in a vulnerable state.
Yep.
And we can connect, and we're good, like really good. Everything else is just kind of like, okay, well, we just got to deal with it. We just got to go through it. But if you and I don't have that connection, it is 10 times harder to get past whatever else we're dealing with, because I don't feel like I have my rope grounding me. I don't have my foundation holding me still. I feel like I'm floating in between all of these different things, and I don't know how to balance it.
And that's what human beings will do when they have a lack or a deficit of connection. You need connection. And so if you find yourself, and look, this is up to you to take a hard look in the mirror and see if you are punishing your spouse because you are lacking something. And if you are, join the club, because we've been there. The beauty is that we can help you with that. We can help you work through that. And you might need to talk to somebody about that before you talk to your spouse, because when you tell your spouse, she might attack you for it. You know what I'm saying? She might.
Well, you're not doing this. Well, no shit, Sherlock, you're not doing this.
Yeah. And so who better to help you with than two people that have been working through these things for the better part of 15 going on 16 years? Jeannie and I, we can help you with that. And we have helped people with that. And we are currently helping people with that right now. And in some of this, is such a challenge that it challenges us to get better at what we do, which enhances our relationship. So that's number 3. Okay. So make sure that you are taking the time to search yourself. And we're going to help you by giving you some tools. Okay. Number 4, this is major mistake number 4. You are assuming you know what it looks like to her. But what does it really look like to her? And have you sat down to ask? And here's the challenge there too, which, Jeannie and I have had to work through. And Coach Rita gave us one great principle, which is buzzwords. And then we have taken that particular tool and we've used it, and other great tools have evolved. One of them you heard earlier, which is say it ugly, and you can clean it up. So we have various tools within our toolbox to assist you there. Now, here's one thing. Maybe you both have quality time as your number 1. Again, we do not want you to assume that what quality time means to you, it means to her, because it can mean 2 different things. And so it is imperative that you ask this question. And sometimes when your spouse asks you this question, it'll be hard to answer. And when you ask her this question, it could be hard to answer. And the question is, what does that look like?
And you need to remember, this was really hard for me in the beginning. And Rita had to pull teeth. Very good at asking questions, because I knew what the typical answer was. I knew what other people would say this is supposed to be. So we had just gone through that test for personalities, and I knew what personality I wanted people to think I was. So I took the test according to what I wanted the results to say, not necessarily who I am on the inside. And so Rita took that and used it in this. When we were deciding what does it look like, Rita had to sit down with me and say, I don't want to know what other people think, because at the time when Quincy and I were going through things, we used to spend a lot of time at other people's houses. We used to spend a lot of time with other families, and it was whatever their marriage looked like, we just kind of adapted to whatever we were around. But that wasn't quality time for us. Like, quality time for Quincy back then could have been, we're going to go hang out with so-and-so and his wife and their kids, and we're going to have a barbecue, and we're just going to have good fellowship. That was quality time for Quincy, because he liked to be with a lot of people. It wasn't necessarily about quality time with just me. And that's fine. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. But she wanted specifics to what is quality time with me and Quincy look like? And what did I specifically need? Because I was like, well, the movies is great. I mean, he's taking me on a date, so I guess that works. And she was like, no, that doesn't work. What do you need specifically? Because you're not happy with going to the movies. Now, for Quincy, quality time, we can sit and watch 4 or 5 movies in a row and binge and just lay on the couch and hang out together. And he's perfectly content having me there with him. That's quality time. Watching a football game and asking questions and getting into the game with him because it's something that he loves. That is quality time for Quincy because I'm investing myself and my time in his interest with him. Same with me in a hockey game. I want to go to a hockey game. We go to a hockey game. We spend the night. But the second half of that evening is I want a hotel. I want quiet time for the two of us. I want to be able to go take a bath and relax. And I want to have conversation about things that we can't discuss at home because we've got a house full of people. We had to break that down. It may not be the same for both of you, but you need to take a minute and not look at what do the books say quality time is, or what do other couples do for quality time. That doesn't matter in your relationship. Your relationship is, what does my husband need? What does my wife need? What does it look like? And how do we build it? You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I don't know. You looked at me funny. So I was like, you're welcome.
No, I'm not looking at you funny. I didn't know you were going to stop so abruptly.
Sorry.
Was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
No, I mean, it just varies from each love language. I mean, even affection or physical touch, it's different for me than it is for you. Sex is a given. Everybody knows physical touch is part of the intimacy is sex. But for me, it's putting your hand on my back when we're in public in a crowd, or guiding me through things, or, holding my hand when we're somewhere. These are important things for me. For Quincy, and I've noticed this, it's not something that he asks me for. I've just noticed it's something that he responds to. When you've had a rough day and you're sitting in the chair, I'll come up and rub your back or scratch your back or rub your neck. Or these are things that feed into his side of physical touch, because I'm noticing the stress and I'm noticing things and I'm just reacting to it for you. But a lot of it is the physical side of things. And that's coming with, what is the difference between a want and a need? Do you know the difference between a want and a need? Have you drawn those boundaries? It's not easy. Figuring out what you need and what it looks like is not always easy. But I promise it is 100% worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And just a reminder out there, quality time, with your spouse, if your spouse does like to watch movies or shows, etc., quality time means sitting together and being engaged in the moment. And here's something that Jeanne and I have struggled with in the past, is that one spouse is on the phone and that doesn't feel like you're in the moment. And so just be aware. I'm not saying that to take a dig at you. I'm saying that as awareness, because
no, we've implemented a rule now. When we're sitting at a dinner table or we're out somewhere, I'm not ignoring you. I need to do this real quick. I need to look at my phone. I'll take care of it. And then we put it down. Or if we go out to dinner, we flip them over.
Yeah. Because you need to be engaged as a human being. And I know I say that right now, and you're probably listening to this because about 65% of people that consume the show do it on their phone. But hopefully you're doing that when you drive or at the gym, etc. So let's talk about the tools. We promised you some tools to help you. And there are a few things that were said today, which the pastor at church had no idea I was going to cover this. But I'm glad he said what he said. And here's something that, number one is you need a fresh perspective. When you're so close to a situation, it's one of those things that we've kind of determined in a saying that I came up with, which is it's hard to see the picture when you're standing in the frame. So you need some time outside of what it is you're doing in your relationship if some of these things are going on in your relationship. If you're making some of these mistakes, trust me, you need a fresh perspective. And there's a few ways to do that. Okay. One of the ways that we offer is a series called Standing Outside the Frame. And I encourage you to go and listen to some of those or engage and become one of those episodes. So you can email us, and it's Quincy@mvsmpodcast.com. And you can tell us kind of what you're going through, and we can offer you some fresh perspective. And it is very, very helpful. There are times where we're able to provide some context and some feedback, and it's just through a few emails, and then life changes dramatically for you. There are other times where we might need to bring it to the air, and we might need to talk about what is going on in your life so that you can hear the story from someone else's perspective and you can detach from it emotionally. Because when you're all in your feels about something, it's a lot harder for you to hear and see what's going on. So that to me is a big deal. What's another way you can do that? Go take the love language test. Now, I've already offered that to you here earlier in the program, but I want to reaffirm that. Check out the love language test.
Even if you've taken it before, even if you've taken it, 10 times in the last 20 years, Quincy and I have learned different phases in your life, different stages of things. Like right now, we're in our kids are growing up, they're moving out, they're doing different things, and we're in a different phase of life. Our love languages shift based on where you're at in the moment. So with surgeries, our love language has shifted because there were things that we couldn't do the way we used to. So we had to come up with another way to do it. We had to come up with something else to fill in that need. So don't take for granted. I know there are some people, because I've talked to a few that are like, well, I've taken it before. This is what it is. I know what it is. Like, take it again. Look at it with an open mind. Answer the questions truthfully from where you're at in the moment, not from what you think your answer should be. Where are you in the moment?
Yeah.
What are you feeling right now as you're reading this? And answer the questions, because your first answer is the real answer.
Yeah. And I would challenge you, if you've taken it before, and say you've never had the perspective that you have now after
Agreed.
listening to this program. And that is very helpful. And also, like when Jeannie is talking about, these things change, it doesn't mean that your number one may not still be quality time, but and we might differ. We might have a different opinion than Dr. Chapman over this. But I would say that at different phases or seasons of your life, they change priorities. It doesn't mean if you were 33% X, that because something becomes a higher priority, you're no longer 33% X. What that means is that this is what's prevalent in your life right now. In some of these other areas, you may not be able to connect with your spouse on it because of the resentment, the unforgiveness, the unmet expectations, etc. What you look like you're itching to say something over there.
I am, because for one, the example with you was when Quincy went through one of his surgeries. First of all, when he went through his transformation and began to rebuild his life's philosophy and who he is as a man, words of affirmation were no longer number one. He didn't need me to affirm who he was. He was solid in who he was, who he is. So those shifted. When he went through surgery, I don't want you to look at, okay, there's 5 love languages and we only need to focus on the top 2, which is what a lot of people, I think, do, us included. I think this is something you and I are going to need to look at again and kind of revamp, because if there's 5 love languages and you have a number in all 5 of those, then why are we only focusing on the top 2?
Yeah.
Because when he went through his surgery, the hardest thing for Quincy is he doesn't do gifts well or acts of service. When people do things for him, at the time, it was very hard for him because people were coming and mowing our lawn. People were coming and putting up Christmas lights. People were coming and bringing us food. People were coming and cleaning the house, because we had 8 children, because he had gone through several major surgeries back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And we have children that have disabilities and have other medical conditions themselves that required full-time care. So we had people that rallied around us so that I could fill the role of mom and wife. They came and did the husband things, and they came and did some of the mom things so that we could balance. And it was really, really hard for Quincy in the beginning because he felt like they were doing his job because he couldn't physically do it. But over that, he had to learn it's okay to accept gifts from people. It's okay to accept acts of service from people because that's how they love you. This is what you need in the moment. They're giving you that love. Now, for both of us, I've noticed this in some conversations, and I kind of noticed it with myself. I suck when it comes to gifts. I love to give gifts, and I'm really good at it because I pay close attention to detail on things with you and the kids. But when it comes to receiving gifts, it's really hard for me because it's not that I don't appreciate it. It's that I don't always think of myself first. So I don't think about what I want or what I need. I always have a guilt attached to it because I would rather do than receive. Does that make sense?
I think I'm pretty good at giving you gifts.
You are great at giving me gifts. That's what I'm saying, though. It's not that I don't appreciate it, or that you're not good at it. I have trouble receiving it appropriately.
Yeah, same.
I feel like when he bought me the hockey stick. If you've ever listened to the episodes, that's probably the most epic Christmas we've ever had when it comes to my response, because it is Jonathan Quick's used hockey stick from a game. Long story short, I lost my crap. But outside of that, even that, like after I got it and everything settled, my first thought was, oh my God, I know how much he paid for that. I know because I looked him up. I know what the expense is for these kind of things. And I felt bad because you had spent that amount of money and I knew what it was. And I felt like I didn't do anything for that. I didn't earn that. That's a lot. But then on the flip side, I bought us a 9-day trip that COVID ruined. But I had the plane tickets. I had the childcare. I had the concert tickets. I had the hockey. I had everything. I had no problem with me doing that for you. But when it came to me, it was really hard for me to accept that I could have that.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with acts of service. The girls do stuff for me and I appreciate it, but then I don't know what to do with it sometimes because that's my job as mom. I'm supposed to be doing this for you, but they want to do it for me. And it's really hard sometimes to just accept something and take it in as somebody's loving you. This is where it gets confusing in a marriage because you want to do these things for somebody and they're not receiving it the way you want them to or you expect them to.
Yeah, it deflates the other person.
It does. And that's what the point I'm making though is if you don't, first of all, focus on the first 2 or 3 because those are your primary. That is your absolute highest need. Those are going to resonate the most. Figure out what those look like, but don't neglect the other 3.
Yeah.
Because as you go along in life, if this is truly your life partner, those other 3 are going to come up and it's still going to be a sore if you don't learn how to accept it or receive it or to give it. And it's not intentionally meant to be a rub for somebody. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right?
Yeah, I think so. And, the underlying thing there, I would say is, which I struggle with the same thing, is you don't earn a gift.
Mm-hmm.
A gift is given. And, you can honor a gift by how you use it or how you care for it. But you don't earn a gift. And so that may be challenging for the people listening, and it may not be a material gift. Maybe it's the gift of something else.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's the gift of forgiveness, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Maybe it's the gift of intimacy because you have made mistakes in your relationship. We've had guests and listeners that struggle with pornography. And there's a lot of shame involved in that. And so when your wife is giving you the gift of making love, that can really further or cause a disconnect because of the feelings of guilt or shame. And so that's where it's important, to reach out for help. And I'll just tell you this, when you reach out to us for help, when you email us, that is sacred to me. That is sacred, and your business does not get strewn about. And it's hard because unless you've listened to this program for a while, you may not have built up, or I may not have the equity built in trust for you. And that's understandable. But let's start small. Let's build some trust between us. Go spend some time. I would ask you, if you want help, if you want things to get better, if you want transformation in your life, spend some time going through these 300 and almost 360 episodes and listen to us pour our heart out on your behalf. Listen to us in our willingness to make fools out of ourselves in order to show you that there's a better way. And I am extremely confident that the better you get to know us, the more trust, the more equity we will build with you when it comes to trust. This stuff is sacred to us. It is very, very important that we're not going to spread your business. We're here for you. Why? Why are we here for you? Because we used to be you. And we know how much it matters when people care about you. So I don't have to know you personally by name to care for you and to care about you. I just know that I used to be you. And someone was willing to help us. And her name is Coach Rita. And she was selfless in doing it. And she set the example for us. And that's why we do what we do here today. The final tool, the final piece of this pie is about reconciliation and forgiveness. Two things that the pastor talked about today. Two things that you yourself, if you're harboring unforgiveness, if you're not reconciled, I encourage you to take those things to Jesus Christ. Truly. Nobody knows forgiveness like he knows forgiveness. Nobody embodies forgiveness like he embodies forgiveness.
And you need to remember, if you're holding on to things, sometimes we have a tendency to hold on to what they did prior. Well, the last time you did XYZ. If you haven't let go of that and you're pushing for someone to forgive you and to just give you grace and let you take a step forward, but you're still harboring this back here and you're still throwing it forward at them, you need to think about that for a second.
Yeah, demanding.
You can't demand forgiveness from somebody else when you yourself are not willing to give it. You cannot hold someone else accountable for what you feel they're doing wrong when you yourself have not been held accountable for what you've done wrong.
Or you haven't taken
responsibility for it. And I cannot stress this enough. Rita had to hammer this into me because I grew up where the jugular was your aim, and as much ammunition as you could hold on to was your best friend, because you were not going to be scathed. You were going to do the firing.
Yeah.
I had to learn very, very hard. Once you let it go and it's forgiven, you cannot bring it up again. You cannot. Now, if it's in a conversation and we discuss, well, when we talked about this and we had that argument and things went this way, for example, Quincy and I will have a conversation and it might be something that we argued about a while back. And it's like, look, I'm bringing this up because the last time we talked about this, it got heated. This doesn't mean I'm still harboring that. It doesn't mean I'm still holding it. It means I need you to look at what we're talking about. Without that, we need to look at it brand new from where we're sitting right now. Similar situation. I don't want the same reaction. This is where Say It Ugly comes into play. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm not saying it to rehash old crap. I'm saying it because I don't want to do that. I want to fix it. I
Mhm.
want to change it.
Yep.
If you cannot do that, you do not have the right to ask someone else to do it for you. And you need to own that. Before you ask for forgiveness, you need to come clean with yourself and what you need to take responsibility for. And you need to apologize genuinely and cut it loose. But if you keep bringing up old crap, don't be surprised when it starts getting flung back at you.
Yeah. And it will. And it will. And that's where this comes in. And Coach Rita used to teach us this, you can be right and you can also be alone.
You'll be both.
And Pastor Jeff said this today. Do you want to be right or do you want to be reconciled? And I choose reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
I choose that. Let's be reconciled. And then the next thing, just to talk about, I want, for those of you watching the program, I think this is something that was really good when it comes to unforgiveness. And that is this. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I mean, I think that is so eloquent.
Mm-hmm. You're holding on to something that's going to inevitably make you sick.
Correct. It's allowing people to live rent-free in your mind and any other number of things that harboring unforgiveness is. And truly unforgiveness, when it takes root, it really starts to, the fruit of that is bitterness.
That's the ultimate screw you for a person who is a control freak. If you're a control freak and like you need to be in control of everything, but yet you're not willing to forgive, you have control of nothing. Nothing. Because the other person that you refuse to forgive has control of everything because you refuse to let it go.
Yeah. And so those are the tools that we're giving you, and these tools will help you in reconciling these mistakes in your relationship. And how do I know that?
Been there, done that.
Because we use them. Number one, we've made the mistakes. And number two, we've used these things to reconcile. Now, you had a few side notes that were not in my notes. So you need to just review those quickly, please, and let me know if you want to talk about them, because otherwise we are going to wrap this baby up.
We kind of touched on it. If this is a reoccurring issue, forgiveness may take time and you may have to put in the work to prove that you'll do better. What that means is if you've been forgiven and you're at that place where you've decided you're going to reconcile, but you continue to make the same mistakes, and then you come back, well, okay, I need grace. I need grace. I need grace. At some point, that grace is going to run out. Not from God, but from your spouse, because you can only do something so many times without actually making the change before they decide you're just not really making the change.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And let me say this. It's likely that, you found this show because of the title, Major Mistakes in Marriage. So it's likely that you may be in a spot in a few of these places in your relationship where your words don't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all about action. And that's something that I had to teach myself. That's a lesson I had to learn myself. And it came down to this. It was like, hey, Quincy, this is Quincy talking to Quincy. Talk is cheap. It's action that pays the bills. And so I had to reorient myself and start taking action. And then when your words line up with your action, you start to build something that I call internal credibility, where you can begin to trust you. Because if you don't trust you, why would you expect anyone else to trust you?
Well, and the other side of that is if you're at a place where your words no longer matter, they're not hitting home, they're just not resonating with her at all. And then you start doing all these things and you're putting action to it, but you're not getting the response you want. You're not getting the attaboy. Understand that's because she is trying to decide, can I really trust this?
Mhm.
And it's not something that happens right away. It took Quincy and I months to build some of that stuff back because he had to work on his weight, work on himself, work on his confidence. And in the midst of all of that, we were working on us.
Yeah.
And I was working on getting rid of my depression and not responding to my daughter's autism the way that it was hurting me and the way that it was hurting others. There was a lot going on because I didn't know I was depressed. I had no idea what I was dealing with. That's a whole different game to play with. But I couldn't trust him and I couldn't trust me because everything I was doing was out of emotion.
Yeah.
It takes time, and you cannot demand from somebody else to just accept it because this is what I'm doing now and this is the way it's going to be and you have to be okay with it. Because let me tell you, if you haven't seen the finger, you would have gotten it from me by then. That's not how this works. Just because you flipped a switch and made a change does not mean your partner has flipped the same switch. I change slower than Quincy does at things. I process things slower than Quincy does at things. Why? Because I'm a very emotional person. I have to work through the emotion and the hurt. I have to work through the process of forgiveness. I have to work through my anger, not just at you. I've got to work through my own crap because I'm mad at me for holding on to this.
Yeah.
I have to take time to work out my side of things. And you have to be willing, if you want to reconcile, truly reconcile, you have to be willing to give your partner the time they need. You cannot sit here and say, well, I know you're trying to change this and I'm going to hold you accountable to it. Not your responsibility.
That's right.
If I make an agreement to change my diet, I am responsible, not him, me. If I choose not to do that and I slip off and I do other things, it is not up to him to hold me accountable. Does it mean he doesn't have the right to say something? No. But does it mean that he gets to sit there and dig at me and make me feel like crap for it? No, he does not.
Yeah. And that comes in time because Jeannie would ask me to hold her accountable and it would not go well. And then we learned this. Accountability is your own words back to you. And so that takes time and energy and trust. I want to put this up on the, I want to put this up over here. And I don't know how to do this, so forgive me. Okay. I'm doing it now. Reconciliation. Here's a couple of definitions. And look, we can't always trust the definition of things on Webster's dictionary anymore because they've changed the definition of things that are very clear cut and simple. But with that, number one, reconciliation. The restoration of friendly relations. Just stop. I'm going to give you a moment or two of silence. How nice does that sound for your relationship? I mean, truly, how nice does that sound? It's got to sound great. Because friendly relations, it means that the air is easier to breathe. It means spending time with someone in the same area. There's a lot less friction there. And then the second one I think is really great, which is the action of making one view or belief compatible with another. You are reconciling. Yes, you are reconciling yourselves. And so I thought about that and I was like, that would be something good to present because what does reconciliation look like? And that's one of the tools we gave you, which is each of these things. What does that look like for you? I can't define that for you. I can define it for Jeannie and I, and she can define it for her.
We have to go back and redefine our 5 love languages off to the side. It doesn't have to happen right now, but I think we need to do that again and see where we're sitting. I still think our top 2 are the same, but I really think we need to start looking at what are the other 3 and why are we neglecting them? Why aren't we? If there's 5 love languages, why aren't we multilingual?
Well, here's the thing. We might need to look and see if we are neglecting them because we may not be.
True. That's true. We don't know what they look like.
So that is something that we can go back and look at. And I think we should bring that here, to the program.
Maybe that needs to be part of the momentum.
Could be.
And looking at, what changes need to be made and where.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Hey, I want to make sure that again, I'm going to put it up there so that you can see if you're watching the program. Here's what you'll see. You'll see the email address. It says email us today, Quincy@mvsmpodcast.com. That's MVSM like man versus marriage at MVSmpodcast.com. Shut up, Jeannie. And then also, we would love for you to go check out quincymoran.com, and you can check out our apparel page. And that's where you'll find things like this that I'm wearing here today, which is now is the time to change your life. And it has the signature Man versus Marriage on there. But there are plenty of things out there at quincymoran.com/apparel for you to wear. And why do I want you to wear it? Because it helps us build the platform. Would you please give this video a like? Would you please share it? Would you please rate and review the program? I'm asking you to do that. We're here to help you. We want to help more people, and you spreading the good word is how we can further this platform. So be a good bro and share the show. Yeah. You see me working over there. I know you do. I know you do. I've come up with some things, honey.
I know.
I
still like Andy's better, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, Andy Frisella usually does a lot of great things. His tagline is "Don't be a hoe, share the show." Don't come get it for free, baby. I think that's pretty funny if you ask me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Honey, any final words?
No, I think we covered it all. The only thing I would say is if you're not willing to put in the work, don't take the next step. If you are willing to put in the work, then give yourself time to let things work, let it process. It takes time.
It does take time, and it takes grace, and it takes forgiveness. And all those things are possible, especially for those of you that have faith in Jesus Christ. That's the honest truth. He will help you there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this episode of Man versus Marriage. For Jeannie Moran, I am Quincy Moran, and this is Man versus Marriage. Oh, I came in hot again. Sorry about that. This is Man versus Marriage, the podcast.